love hearing it. Well, we're going to get started. And as we just heard, so welcome back. First of all, I'm Jennifer Britton. It is day 3 of the 5-day challenge for Reconnecting Workspaces. Just heard Deborah Gray Young say her brain is churning with all the new learning. So whether this is new or reinforcement, we've got a little bit more to go. And so I want to really bring today sort of 5 core areas. One, which is a repeat of yesterday, because we know that repetition creates learning. And so we don't want to overcomplicate in this world of reconnecting workspaces, but we are going to start with a bit of a myth. So one of the myths of the book, and I think this is from chapter 4, is that we all want to communicate in the same way. In fact, there are many different styles and preferences which exist on a team, and there will be team members who want to verbalize everything and tell their story. There are also going to be others on the team who want that reflective pause before sharing their ideas. Some team members want to share their ideas in writing, others verbally, and even others kinesthetically. That's a piece that I haven't talked about. So actually, chapter 6 of Reconnecting Workspaces is all about communication, and it touches on styles, which is an area that I hope you're going to stay attuned to, because in the next week, if a week, I will have a new hybrid work style quiz coming out. It's something I've been working on all summer. We're getting to the end of it, it's like needing to be connected at the back end, just to be able to have it out. But I hope that that will be of service for people to understand what their natural working style is. You know, are you a builder? Are you a connector? Are you someone who's building culture? Are you a person who's an innovator? And so this quiz will take people through that in about 2 minutes and then give you a very fun report on the back end. So welcome back, everyone. I don't have anything fun today, which is unusual. I meant to pack something in my briefcase that got left at the cottage, but just a reminder of where we've been. We looked at vision and intentions, then we looked at team foundations, and today is 5 core areas of support. So whether you're a coach, like I think most of you are, or you're a leader, today is really about 5 areas that you're going to find to be additional levers to move things forward. Tomorrow, we go into the business of teams. And then on Monday, I think one of my favorites, which will be your hybrid workplace toolbox. So as we get going, any reflections, any further reflections? We heard Deborah's brain is swirling. Vera, what are you coming to the call with? Oh, it's early in your neck of the woods, but what are you coming to the call with? Oh, you don't have your voice today. So something, maybe we'll get you to reconnect your voice. I can see your lips moving, but no voice. So anyways, I'll give it a thumb up. Peggotty, we've got you in the space. What are you coming to the call with?
Let's see. I'm coming to the call with feeling incomplete about yesterday.
Ooh, feeling incomplete. And what's the incomplete about?
So I couldn't find the worksheets. I wanted to really dig into that. And so so I just feel incomplete because I wanted to really kind of look at, and I tried to gather them off the video, but the video panel covers it up.
Yes. So here's where they are. If you can't find them, head on over to reconnectingworkspaces.com/5-day challenge. So I don't know if you were there, 5-day challenge.
I saw what I thought would be a live link, but it wasn't live.
Live. Okay. I will go and check that this morning.
I mean, there wasn't a link. It said
coming soon.
In 3, it said coming soon. And I assumed it didn't say that in 2.
Yeah, you need to hover over, there's like day 2 worksheet, and then just below it is some text. It doesn't look like it's highlighted, but you should be able to hover over that. And so what I'll do is I'll put it as well in the Facebook group, just in case people can't get it. Are you you're on Facebook, right?
I'm on Facebook,
Okay, so I'll put it in the Facebook group as well as a download in case people, because some browsers do different things. So yeah, just know that I'll have the day 3 worksheets up.
Okay.
Feel complete. So you can feel complete. I know Melissa is with us too. Hey, Melissa, can you hear us okay? think Melissa might be out of the office from the looks of it. So I think I'm going to just keep us moving, because today, 5 core areas. We really want to get into some really rich areas like culture, results, relationships, engagement, motivation. We did engagement yesterday, so that is the repeat one. I'll be doing a pop quiz on that to see who remembers what our 5 levers of engagement are. But let's first jump into this core area of culture. And culture is key. If you read PlanDoTrack, Coaching Business Builder, there was a different iceberg of culture in that, but very similar to this. So I thought I'd layer it on today, really getting you to think about, in an organizational setting or a team setting, what are those things that we can see metaphorically above the waterline? And then what are the things that are invisible, but having significant impact on the way people interrelate and intersect? And so at the top of the iceberg, of course, those are the minimal things. And typically, icebergs might be 15% above the waterline, not always like 30 or 40% like we see here, but it's our vision, our mission, our policies, our strategies, the things that we can visually see. And for teams, it's so important that teams are expanding their vantage point in the hybrid space around what can be seen, because most times virtually, we just see what we share, right? So what are the other opportunities for people to share their work? And that might involve things like the 21 for 21, virtual co-working. It might involve doing videos of people in action, taking snippets of their week, doing a reel of highlights. And so this is where we can blend, social media, we can, or you can have an internal social channel really for an organization, but we could be using things like video and other media to help people really see what's happening above the waterline. So key to this is also 2 other areas that I thought were interesting, which is why I picked this graphic. Number 1, vision and mission. And so we touched on this a little bit in day 1, but are you helping people revisit their vision? Are you getting them to really look at what is possible? So below the waterline, we've got invisible elements. These are the things that are not seen. As coaches, we want to bring them out into the light, help team members explore them. And that usually requires that we give them a pause. So some key areas like, what are the roles? And roles in a team, if you recall the 6 factors, big piece from yesterday, right? So what are the roles, formal and informal? Are you the project initiator, or are you the social coordinator? Are you the person who makes sure things get across the finish line? So some of these are formal, informal, written or unwritten. What gets interesting, and sometimes the seeds of conflict, is when we are unclear about our roles, and when people are in roles that they don't want to be in. So as a coach, this could be a whole conversation. This could be an hour and a half conversation with the team, just going into that whole area of roles. So each one of these, actually below the waterline, the roles, status, relationships, values and norms, attitudes and feelings, and fundamental people needs, are really an anchoring block or a module in and of themselves. And as we go through today's session, you're going to hear me talk about a couple of them, like status, right? Status plays out in any community, in any organization. We don't often, or maybe prior to the last couple of years, most organizations haven't really talked about it, but there is inherently in any entity power dynamics on a whole variety of levels, from race to class to gender to sexual orientation to how we are and what roles we inhabit. And so how are we looking at those status layers? How are we, again, shining the light on what's happening, what's helping, and what's hindering in a context? And that can be a challenging conversation, as we all know, but it's really important to be surfacing this in a hybrid workspace, especially because in hybrid, there will be inevitably an us them. If you're not in the office, you're offsite. So how do you really make sure that you are talking about issues like equity, inclusivity, involvement, all voices being heard? These are the languagings that I would use, and there may be different languaging in different organizations, but it's important that we really talk about who are we as a collective. If we are part of a team, it doesn't matter whether we're in the office or out of the office. We should all be having equal access to information and people and resourcing. So that takes us to the next area, which is relationships. And I've got a separate piece on this. As some of you know, in Reconnecting Workspaces, it's all premised on results plus relationships equals high performance, right? It's not just about getting results. It's also about really being clear on our relationships. So one of our 5 areas today is on relationships, and a big part of the book, chapters 10 and several other chapters off the top of my head, focus specifically on relationships. Part of relationships is like our values and norms. How do they align? How do they not align? What do we take a stand for? How do we do things here? Because that's really what culture is. And that's going to influence our attitudes and feelings, which again are often below the waterline, as well as our fundamental needs. And fundamental needs speaks to motivation, which is yet another, it's area 5 that I'll touch on. So let me just pause here. How does this metaphor of the iceberg resonate with your work, your conversations in this moment? Is this something any of you are talking about? Because I know in my work, we've really been using the iceberg in a lot of organizations on multiple levels for several years now. I know in my former world of work, cross-culturally, this was a really big piece of like stimulating dialogue around how we were similar, how we were different, understanding in I think in a very safe way of like, what are those things that we don't talk about? What are the issues that are taboo? And if on a team there are things that are taboo and are not being talked about, it can really weaken a team. So I don't know, what's your connection with this? Peggy, go ahead.
I interrupted a conversation to join this call today, which was about when there is a perceived status difference, and this was specifically in regard to a Muslim woman who wears a headscarf, and she felt like she was disconnected from her organization. And the question was, what conversations have you initiated? And it was none. And so what that says to me is that there is an assumption there, right? That it's not my job to initiate, like I'm not the one to do it because I'm guessing because there's a perceived status difference, but I'm not sure what it is.
That's an
But the question is what, because I really love talking to people that are different from me. But I find my own barriers. So how do we break through the barriers of engaging with others?
Yeah.
It's sort of like back to basics, right?
Yeah, it is. And again, if we look to this, I think this is why I started with culture, because it's all about what is the culture we want to create. In my former world of work, 30 staff members that I supported, 26 nationalities, about 20 different languages. And it was really key in my work as a leader to say, you know what, we need all voices in the room. And that means I'm going to look to you, but you also need to look to me. If you have an issue, this is where everyone needs to take ownership. And we had people of all different races and classes and nationalities. And it was so key that we had very open discussions around, our status differentials, whether it was along gender line, racial lines, national lines, roles. And that was a very intentional piece, which, like going back to day 1 of this challenge, intentionality is key. So that's a bit different than the situation you've, mentioned, Peggy, but I think if we are coaching people who feel disconnected from organizations, regardless of what it is, it takes 2 to tango. That's what I always like to say. It takes 2 to tango. And at the same time, we want to be very intentional in making requests. And it's a proactivity that, is different for all of us. I say this having been a very young leader, like the first 5-6 years of my career, I was constantly battling against ageism on a young scale. People would look at me and they'd be like, oh, she doesn't understand. She's not old enough. She's just not old enough. And this was in a very male-dominated environment. And I was a young woman. And I would go into meetings with my team, two guys of two different race backgrounds in a country where there were 5 predominant races. And it was very interesting for all of us to see who different people would turn to, whether it was age, whether it was gender, or whether it was race. And we had, we worked together for 2 years. And it really was a real eye opener in terms of how do we influence in structures which there are massive power differentials. So much bigger than this. But that is what coaching is about. It's about holding a space and helping people identify what are your options? What would you like to do? What is possible? So I think this is just off the head, a few pieces. It's by no means, a total piece of this much bigger puzzle. But any comments from anyone else? Deborah, go ahead. Maybe something.
So as you know, Jennifer, and the rest of you don't know this, but I work primarily with women of color, just for that reason. And Peggotty, one of the challenges is that for the person that you were talking about, she may not feel she may not feel comfortable with broaching a conversation, because what she may be feeling is the sort of the resistance and that comes out of bias, right? That other people have about her faith. One of the things that's going on now, and Jennifer, you talk about something being under the waterline. There was just an article. Jennifer also knows I read like voraciously. But there was an article just last week about how Black professional women don't want to return to the office. They prefer working from home, and they want to stay, they want to continue that because they're just tired of dealing with all the microaggressions in the office. And they just prefer not to deal with it, and because they're tired. But the rent is due in a couple, or the mortgage is due in a couple of weeks. So,
Right.
They're trying not to be part of that great, resignation. But the truth of the matter is, for them, no matter where they go, they're subject to be, encountering that. So then there's that. There's a whole bunch of stuff underneath this waterline here.
There is, and it's much bigger than what we can touch on today, right? Like, and this is the thing. It is complex, it is challenging, it's provocative, and we need that safety. And I think, part of what we will do as coaches is there a safe enough environment also to raise these issues, to raise this discourse? This is a dialogue, right? This is not a one-off, one-way monologue. We've got to bring everyone's voice in.
We have a lot of work to do.
There's been a lot of work for decades, right? Like, I've been involved in anti-racist education, social justice since 1992. And I look at it and I think, wow, have we made any progress some days? I think maybe in some areas that I've been involved with, we've made baby steps. Other areas, I think we've moved backwards, unfortunately. But we need to keep in dialogue, right? That to me is at least my perspective on this. It's like, I need to keep showing up and facilitating conversation and inviting and pointing to issues that, because of my power, are wrong, things that I can have influence over as well. So culture is one area, and we're going to leave this, but by no means is this, to say that it's not important. Another area, of course, is results. We want to get results. So this is the interactive exercise for today, which is the icon that you want to get grounded in today as you think about the results you want to create with your work. Okay, so I'll get you to pull from annotation which image, which icon is of interest to you based on, what results you want to achieve. Look across, there's quite a few here. Maybe there's one or two that's going to help ground and anchor you. When you pick one, just put a little put a little heart or something around it. I put 4 hearts. Again, what's going to give you results today? And I'm intrigued. I've picked the one in the middle, and I'll just start by saying I picked the one with 3 because what I'm very conscious of at this moment, and always have been, is the need that it's about not working in isolation, right? In this remote space, especially, we can feel very isolated, but it's even more important to have relationships, which is our next area. Without relationships, without collaboration, without community, we may not have the impact that we could have when we come alongside and partner with others, whatever that partnership looks like. So for me today, with the projects that I've got on my go after this, it really is about partnering, and it's about thinking about how do we all lift up, right? Like, how do we all lift up together? Because when we come together, there can be a lot more wave or wake. I'm a swimmer, right? So it's sort of like, you know, you have one swimmer or you can have multiple swimmers, and the wake that you create and get in other people's wake actually pulls you forward, which is very powerful. So that was mine. Above where I put it down, someone had the clock. Who had the clock one? All right, and maybe that was like I was trying to work it. Who had the puzzle pieces? My favorite.
I think, well,
that was you, Peggy?
no.
No?
Oh, I'm sorry. The puzzle pieces. Yes, it was me.
What does that represent for you?
That means sort of overcoming the barriers to like fitting together, right? Like, here we are, we have a part, and it really is partnership. I think it really feels like partnership, you know, together. You know, it's always better when we can do things together. All right, when we do things alone, it's so isolating.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
partnership is really partnership, collaboration.
And I'm going to bring in the gears. Who had the green gear or the wheels?
Are you talking about the green squiggly line on there? Okay.
You're in the car today. I love it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We had some transportation issues in my family, but I did that one. And I think it's because I have so many pieces right now and they all have to kind of fit together for me to function well. So I just looked at how things move smoothly when they fit well together, you know, and that's what I would like to happen.
Okay, today, yes. I could have chosen that one too. It's like greased wheels. Let's have a little oil on them.
Right.
Vera, I'm just doing default. Were you the rocket ship, Vera?
No, I can't figure out how to do mine this morning. I need more caffeine. But I'd like to pick the one with the 3 people kind of on the last line there, although it looks like it's all men, but I'm just going to pretend that it's like signifying people coming together and being connected. So that's the one that's resonating with me, but it's also women in there.
I'm going to put 4 hearts around it, right?
Okay, thanks.
It really is, yeah. You know, as I was looking at some graphics this morning, I was like, this is the most neutral, although not neutral, that I could find. And it's interesting, right? It's like, why aren't there more really gender neutral people around? So Deborah, you had the rocket ship, is that correct?
So, well, I'm like Melissa, like, okay, I picked the rocket ship, but then I didn't know how to undo it. And then I picked the eye, but I picked the rocket ship because it was very similar. It represented to me what somebody else said previously, and that is, it takes a lot for a rocket ship to launch into space. It just takes a lot. It takes a lot of technology. It takes a lot of collaboration. It takes a lot of people working together with one goal in mind. And that's what that represented for me. But then I saw the eye, and you know how I feel about cultural intelligence. And that's what the eye represented for me, is people just being able to open their minds and hearts and eyes and embrace cultural intelligence and just recognize that all of these barriers and, meanness and ugliness, it's a waste of time. It's just a waste of energy. So you're on mute, Jennifer.
I'm on mute. So as I was going to say, it looks like, collaboration is here. It's all about people, and that really is our next one. So I will clear the screen as you're looking at this, but simply area 3 is relationships. We really need to spend time focusing in on relationships. And that's why I decided with this one, it would be all about teams. Because the heart of teams is relationships. How are we connected? What are those strong connections? What are those weak connections? If you read through Reconnecting Workspaces, you'll see a lot of the team tools map into not only results, but relationships. And as I said earlier, the whole premise of the book is to really get high performance. We need both. We need results and clarity around that, but we also need super strong relationships. And I think for a lot of us in the area of coaching, this is the heart of teams, of organizations right now. So there's the equation that you'll see coming through multiple times. It's certainly the heart of my work. And yesterday, we did engagement as area 4. So just, today's focus was 5 core areas. I wanted to remind you about the importance of engagement levers. And so how are you activating each of these, or these in combination, like a soundboard, to give you different volume? Some people will be more comfortable using annotation. Others will want to use the chat. Others are going to want to come together and be in breakout. So really be thinking about how you can change the pace, just as we've done every 7 to 10 minutes. That's the marker we're still aiming for. And the last piece that I will circle back to, I think, later, but I want to introduce a very fun model that is coming out in my next book, which is 90-Day Guide for Success. And it's the claims model to motivation. So this is something that I've been sharing with organizations for a few years now, and I really wanted to publish it because I think we're all motivated by different things. And so as we think about motivation in this remote hybrid world, becomes absolutely critical. If we're not motivated, we're not going to show up. We're just going to simply disconnect. And that's a loss, right? Once we have people that disengage, it's very hard to get them back. So motivation becomes a really key area. And I'll just quickly go through this. We'll pick this up tomorrow. But CLAIM stands for, are we motivated by being in community with others? Some of us are, right? It's what I am motivated by. I love people. I love being with people. Are we motivated by learning or autonomy? And autonomy being, the fact that I can get up and start my work as long as I'm being managed by objectives or managed by results. I can be pretty autonomous in the remote space. Some of us are motivated by impact. Some of us are motivated by money and the monetary gain, and some are motivated by status. So just for you, think about what are your primary and secondary drivers, right? Like, I think we have multiples, but it's interesting on a team to really step back. And this is what I've been helping teams do, to ask them, what are you motivated by? And that becomes, again, another elongated conversation. So today's field work, I just want to take you there, is to actually think about these 5 areas and to think about what it is that you want to be looking to enhance your conversations around. So as I've said here, what are the core areas teams are going to want and need support around? Is it around culture and how we do things? Is it around results? Is it around relationships? Is it around motivation? Or is it around engagement or something other? So you're going to notice 2 pages of downloads. I'll invite you to do that. And what I'm going to do as soon as this is uploaded, I'll head on over to reconnectingworkspaces.com/5-day challenge. Make sure that I can download the worksheets on my different devices. I'm sorry if it caused any grief yesterday, but we'll get those worksheets out to you today. So that's all I had to say for today. What's your takeaway? Vera, what are you leaving the call with?
I found the model, the iceberg model, obviously I've seen similar things, but really interesting because not only are there things under the water that we don't see, but right now, because of the virtual environment, we're also not seeing, physically seeing anything else. So it's kind of this like interesting metaphor that there's lots of things under the water, but we're also physically not seeing things because we're in the office. So, and the other question was, are you also going to post all the, like not only the worksheets, but all your kind of models and stuff from yesterday and today, like the high performance teams and the levers and all that? Like, can you post all those things in the Tuckman model?
I can, I knew this morning that I had to pull out the Tuckman's model. I'll probably share the engagement levers piece, and they're actually longer calls on it. So many of these areas, if you want more resources, I'll put a link to videos where you can find out more. Because things like the 5 engagement levers, like I do calls now for half an hour on that. So yeah, for sure. And I'll put the page reference as well to the book.
Okay,
all right.
awesome.
So Vera's had some big takeaway. Deborah, what's your takeaway for today?
This just gets bigger and bigger.
It does get bigger and bigger, right? Which is why I wanted to do a 5-day challenge to just say, here's some of the areas. And, any one of these could be another 5-day challenge. It's one of the reasons why I decided to do there's now a Reconnecting Workspaces certified coach program. And it's a 24-hour continuing coach education program to go deeper into a lot of these areas. So I'll talk more about that tomorrow, but it's, this is it's yet another body of work to be taking forward to people, which I think is really valuable and needed in this moment, because these are the things that people really need to talk about, but aren't necessarily surfacing. So.
And they don't know how to talk about it. I think that's the key thing.
Well, that is it. How do we find the safety to have the conversations that need to move? We need to have those conversations in order to move forward. That is the crux of this. How about you, Melissa? What's your take forward? And we'll get you to unmute as well. I'll get you to
unmute, Melissa.
Ta-da, there we go. We've all had
there. Sorry about that. So my takeaway, I'm a speech language pathologist and a coach, and I'm really like to hear every voice. And I was thinking about the story about the woman, who wasn't maybe contributing. And I was thinking about what you said, Deborah, about cultural, just understanding cultures, and then this iceberg. And what came back to me is, this environmental justice thing I'm doing with this nonprofit, and the importance of polls, all of these levers. And I thought this is like such a beautiful way, in a way that it might be harder in person, actually, to get every voice heard, to have safe ways for people to participate and to structure it, like you were saying, Jennifer, to be really intentional and to structure, how can we get every voice heard here? So I was just looking at some of those levers, like sometimes even chat, people might not want to go in, but if you have a poll, you're willing to go in and say, I vote for this or this or this, or I disagree or I agree. So anyway, that was my big takeaway.
I love that you've connected the dots, right? Because the virtual space can really create engagement. Like I look at myself, right? I have partial vision and I can do more than I could do before. But if I had to try and navigate the physical world, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing every day. So it's a leveler, right? It really is a leveler and an equalizer in some ways if we use the tools that can create equity. So excited. I enjoyed our conversation today. Tomorrow we'll loop back on many of these topics. I'll see you back here at 8:30. So enjoy your day, everyone. Thanks for contributing.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Be well.
You too. Bye.